Welcome aboard and hello again everybody, it's Rob from PMDG. Another tutorial with our Douglas DC-6 from Microsoft Flight Simulator. Today's episode we're going to be going through doing a heavier takeoff, so this one will be a wet takeoff. Runway's dry, the weather's clear, we're loaded up, so let's get started. We're here on the flight deck of the Douglas DC-6. I'll zoom into the tablet here real quick just so you can get an idea what I did with the weights. We've still got 16,482 pounds of fuel, 4,700 pounds of cargo, and this time I put the passenger load up to 68. That gives us a gives us a gross takeoff weight of just about 95,000 pounds. We'll round that number up from the 970 something to 95,000 pounds. If you're going to round a number in aviation, always round more conservatively. You can see that we've already done the before takeoff checklist. The auto feather system is armed. Pressurization is set. We're going to be climbing up to flight level 190 or 19,000 feet, and you can see that here. What I did was I set this indicator to 19,000 for flight because that's going to be the flight altitude, and then this one automatically sets itself, that's the expected cabin altitude of about 7,400 feet or so. Jumping up to the overhead panel, let's take a look at our speed placard. If we use the 95,000 pound row, we can see we've got a V1 of 99 and a V2 of 110. So all that's left to do now is come over here to our automated flight engineer. We're going to just click on wet takeoff and send him off. But before we do, a quick review of our takeoff power settings shows that we're expecting 59.5 inches of manifold pressure. And that will give us all the thrust that we need to take off at 95,000 pounds. So we'll come over here, we'll click on wet takeoff.
Water injection.
You can see automated flight engineer has turned on the water injection pumps here on the overhead panel. Now what we'll expect to see as the engines reach takeoff power, these green lights will illuminate, indicating that the water pressure that's indicated here is actually resulting in water injection flow into the combustion process for the engines. So we're at 30 inches of manifold pressure now.
Tail flaps set. Full power, please. Going full power.
Here comes takeoff power. I'm going to leave the brakes set just so we can see this without having our eyes focused out the window. There's just about 49.5 inches. The lights come on to indicate that there's water being injected into the engines. And you can see that our manifold pressure now is up at 59.5 inches, which is a tremendous amount of power. So we'll release the brakes and off we go. Now, a few folks have asked, why not just use this power setting all the time? And the answer really simply is 59.5 inches of manifold pressure is a huge amount of power to be asking from your engine. So you don't want to do this unless you really need it. And of course, you really need it if you weigh more than 87,600 pounds. So here we are approaching our rotation speed, just a tiny little nose up. And we're off and flying. Now, I'm going to accelerate the time here just to make the video a little bit shorter. But what I want you to notice is that the flight engineer is going to take a little bit longer before he brings the power back to METO power. And he's doing that because he's really waiting on the airplane to accelerate. Once the airplane is accelerated, it comes back to METO power, which is what we have here. And then he'll call out that METO power has been set. We'll continue to clean up the airplane. He'll set climb power, and we'll continue our climb. To climb, we always set 40 inches of manifold pressure and 2,400 RPM. It doesn't matter whether you're climbing away from a runway or you're making a step climb later in flight. That's going to be your climb power setting. Your takeoff power settings are even easier. because all you got to do is delegate those to the automated flight engineer and he'll set them for you. You just simply let him know whether you want a wet or a dry takeoff based on your weight. He handles the rest. All right, that's your first wet takeoff. We're in the climb and headed north, and that's all for today. Thank you for flying with PMDG. Fly safely, be well, look after one another. We'll see you real soon.